All right, let's dust off some ancient wisdom. Today we're going to be diving into Proverbs 6.
Proverbs 6.
Yeah, you know those punchy little sayings, packed with life lessons. We're talking advice on how to avoid debt, finding inspiration in the most unexpected places,
Yeah.
and warnings that are shockingly relevant woven today.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like how these Proverbs, they were written so long ago, but they still tap into some fundamental truth about how to navigate life.
Totally, and they're so relatable.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in, Proverbs 6.1.
Okay.
It says, "My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, if you have shaken hands and pledged for a stranger, you've been trapped by what you said, ensnared by the words of your mouth." Whoa, talk about a reality check.
Right. I mean, it's not about being cynical or distrustful.
Right.
It's about understanding the weight of commitments, financial commitments.
Mm-hmm.
This proverb is urging us to think long and hard before we co-sign a loan or guarantee someone else's debt.
Think about how stressful credit card debt is today.
Oh, yeah.
Or student loans. I mean,
absolutely.
Getting tangled up in someone else's financial mess could lead to some major heartache.
The proverb isn't saying never help anyone, but it's a cautionary tale about the consequences of making impulsive financial decisions.
You got to weigh the risks.
Weigh the risks. Make sure you're not setting yourself up for disaster.
Sometimes, honestly, the best thing you can do for someone and for yourself is to just say no.
Exactly. Now,
tough love.
Speaking of good intentions, there's this really interesting passage.
Okay.
Proverbs 6.6 to 8. It says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." Like ants. We're taking life lessons from ants.
You know what's funny? My grandma used to say, "Work like an ant, you'll never be hungry."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, but it's true.
It's true.
These little ants, they're powerhouses of preparation.
Right.
Even without someone telling them what to do, they're out there.
No, hustling.
Hustling, getting ready for the future.
That's the beauty of the proverb. It's not about mindless work.
Yeah.
It's understanding the value of planning consistent effort.
Yeah.
The ant, it becomes this symbol of proactive diligence.
Makes you think about all those areas where we could use a little more of that ant mentality.
Right.
Like building an emergency fund or finally tackling that project you've been putting off.
Meal prepping.
Meal prepping, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about steady, consistent effort towards a goal.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Sometimes the smallest, most consistent actions, those are the ones that get the biggest results over time.
So true. So true.
Now, Proverbs also doesn't shy away from the darker side of things.
Oh, yeah.
9:15, get real about the consequences of laziness and dishonesty.
Okay.
We get some powerful imagery here. Poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. Disaster will overtake him in an instant. Whoa, talk about a wake-up call.
You know that image of poverty creeping up like a thief?
Yep.
That one really gets me. It's so easy to just think, oh, I'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
Whether it's financial planning or just my to-do list.
Yeah.
But procrastination can really bite you, can't it?
This passage really drives home the point that our choices have consequences.
Yeah.
Laziness and dishonesty might seem like the easy way out, but they lead to ruin.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we need to be intentional about our actions and the direction we're heading.
So we've talked about being wise with our money, being diligent like the ant. Now let's get into something a little, controversial.
Okay, I like it.
Proverbs 6.1619 gives us this list of 7 things that are detestable to God.
7 deadly sins.
Yeah. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. I mean, that's a pretty heavy list, right?
It is. And it raises questions about what it means to live a good life. What I find fascinating is how these 7 deadly sins, they kind of transcend culture and religion.
Yeah.
They're actions and attitudes that have universally negative consequences.
But are they all equally relevant today?
That's a great question.
I mean, are haughty eyes really as bad as hands that shed innocent blood?
That's a good point, and it's important to remember these proverbs, they're meant to be pondered and discussed, not just taken at face value.
So maybe it's not about a strict ranking of sins, but more about the underlying principles. It's about recognizing those behaviors that, erode trust, sow division, and harm ourselves and others.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that even small actions, like spreading gossip or manipulating people, can have a big impact.
So the language might be a bit old-fashioned, but the message is still so relevant today.
It's about looking at ourselves and saying, hey, am I contributing to the well-being of those around me, or am I adding to the negativity?
That is a powerful question.
It is.
So Proverbs, it really packs a punch.
Yeah.
Before we get overwhelmed, let's take a look at what it has to say about temptation.
Especially in relationships.
Yeah, relationships.
This is where Proverbs gets really poetic, I think. It uses vivid imagery to get the point across.
Okay, like what?
Verses 27-29, they ask, can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? Can a man walk on hot coals without his feet being scorched?
Ouch. It doesn't get much clearer than that.
That's what I love about Proverbs, It's direct, it's visceral, it sticks with you.
It's a pretty stark warning about playing with fire.
Right.
I mean, who hasn't been burned at some point by making an impulsive choice?
Exactly.
And Proverbs is saying that some choices, especially those involving infidelity, they have a really high risk of burning us.
Burning us badly.
Yeah, and potentially others too.
And it's not just about the immediate pain.
Right.
It's the long-term consequences.
Like that line, no one who touches her will go unpunished. It's not about judgment.
Right.
It's about understanding that actions have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Infidelity can shatter trust, wound deeply, and leave scars that last a lifetime.
It's important to recognize this passage isn't just about avoiding specific actions. Okay. It's about self-control and making choices that lead to well-being.
Well-being for ourselves and for others.
Exactly.
It's about understanding that true freedom comes from making wise choices. Choices that align with our values and lead to a life that we can be proud of.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
From finances to diligence to resisting temptation, it's clear that Proverbs 6 has a lot to say about how to live a wise and fulfilling life.
Yeah, and we're just getting started.
Stay tuned.
There's so much more to unpack.
Plenty more to come.
It's kind of crazy to think about these Proverbs being written thousands of years ago.
It really is.
Like a completely different world.
Yeah.
How can we apply this to our lives today?
Well, that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
They tap into something timeless about being human.
Okay, but there's got to be some disconnect, right?
I mean, sure.
Like take the ant analogy.
Okay.
Just work hard and everything falls into place.
Well, it's not just about blind hard work.
Right.
It's about consistent effort. Even in small doses.
Okay.
Can lead to big results over time.
So it's more about the mindset.
Mindset, yeah.
Perseverance and planning.
Exactly.
Not just working your butt off all the time.
Right, and that applies to so many things.
Yeah, like what?
Think about saving money.
Okay.
Saving a little each month for retirement. Instead of blowing your paycheck on impulse purchases.
Been there, done that.
Or chipping away at a big project.
Versus getting overwhelmed.
And giving up that consistent effort. It really makes a difference.
It's about working smart and consistently.
Yeah.
Not just hard.
Not just hard.
Okay, so let's get back to the text. There's this passage, Proverbs 6.2023, that always makes me think about my parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says, my son, keep your father's command and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Bind them always on your heart. Fasten them around your neck. When you walk, they will guide you. When you sleep, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will speak to you. It's like wearing wisdom as armor.
I love that image. It speaks to the value of, passing down wisdom through the generations.
Like the lessons our parents teach us.
Yeah.
Can guide us through tough times.
It's like a compass.
Makes me think about all the times I rolled my eyes at my parents' advice.
Oh, I'm sure we've all been there.
And then years later, I'm like, oh, they were right.
Well, sometimes we learn best from experience. Even if it's painful. But this proverb is also saying, be open to the wisdom of those who came before you.
It doesn't mean blindly follow everything they say.
Right, but there's often valuable insight to be gained.
So honor that knowledge, even if you forge your own path.
Use it as a foundation to build your own life on.
And I think it goes both ways, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Younger generations have a lot to offer.
Fresh perspectives, unique experiences.
It's a two-way street.
The beautiful thing when different generations can learn from each other.
We talked about this section on adultery, but there's something else that stuck with me about that.
What's that?
It's not just about the physical act.
Right.
It's about the emotional damage.
The betrayal.
Yeah, the ripple effects on families.
And it made me think about how that applies to other relationships, too.
Oh, yeah.
Not just romantic ones.
Like what?
Think about friendships.
Yeah.
Dishonesty, disloyalty, those things can really hurt.
It's like that saying.
What's that?
Trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair.
That's so true.
So Proverbs is saying the foundation of any relationship
is
trust and respect.
Without those, it all falls apart.
So it's less about rules,
Yeah.
more about building strong relationships.
Yeah, it's about making choices that affect everyone.
Not just ourselves.
And choosing to be someone who builds others up.
Okay, so we've talked about diligence, wisdom from older generations, and the importance of trust. What's the biggest takeaway for you so far from Proverbs 6?
For me, it's that overarching message of wisdom.
Okay.
Seeking it out, letting it guide your choices. Because wisdom is how we navigate life.
How we make good decisions.
It's how we build a life with meaning.
I like that. Wisdom is a journey.
It's not a destination.
Not something you just have.
You keep learning, growing.
And it's not just about having knowledge.
Right.
It's about using it to make your life better.
Exactly.
To make a life you can be proud of.
Absolutely.
But hold on, we're not done yet.
We're not done.
There's one more piece of the puzzle to look at. As we've been going through Proverbs 6, I'm struck by how it's both practical and insightful.
It is?
It's not just some high-level philosophy.
That's right.
It's a guide for everyday life.
It really is. And what's remarkable is how it addresses the whole human experience. Our weaknesses, our temptations, our good and bad sides. It doesn't shy away from the messy stuff.
It's real.
It's real, but it also offers a path to, a good life. Even with all the challenges.
Like it's saying, life is tough, you'll make mistakes, but here's how to get back on track.
Exactly.
How to make better choices.
Right.
To live a more fulfilling life.
It's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about striving for wisdom.
And learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, always learning and growing.
Okay, so we've talked about finances, diligence, resisting temptation, relationships, honoring wisdom from older generations. What else is there?
Well, there's a section that talks about justice and consequences.
Okay.
Specifically theft and adultery.
Oh, yeah.
Verses 30-35.
Okay.
They highlight the societal response, the penalties involved, the impact on reputation.
You're talking about the verses that say, people do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his hunger when he is starving. Yet if he is caught, he must pay sevenfold, though it costs him all the wealth of his house. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. Blows and disgrace are his lot, and his shame will never be wiped away. Intense stuff.
It is, and it reflects the social norms of that time.
Yeah.
These verses highlight how serious these offenses were and the potential for harsh consequences.
It's interesting, though, how the passage acknowledges that there might be reasons, like stealing out of desperation.
Right.
But there are still consequences.
Society might understand, but the act itself,
it still matters.
Comes all its weight.
It's a nuanced perspective. Look beyond the surface.
Consider the context, the reasons behind actions.
But don't excuse the actions themselves.
Exactly. It's recognizing the complexity of human behavior.
And the need for both justice and compassion. Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into Proverbs 6, what's the one thing you want listeners to take away?
If I had to choose one message, it would be this. Cultivate wisdom.
Cultivate wisdom.
Seek it out. Embrace it. Let it guide you. Because wisdom is the key to navigating this crazy thing called life.
Making good decisions.
To building a life of meaning.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Proverbs 6 might be ancient, but its wisdom is timeless.
Timeless.
It's a reminder that integrity, diligence, wise decision-making, those are still important today.
As relevant as ever.
And cultivating those things can lead to a better life.
A more fulfilling life, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And remember, the pursuit of wisdom is a journey.
It's ongoing.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Proverbs 6.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep asking those big questions, and keep striving to live a life guided by wisdom